Hello learners, welcome to Drishti CUET undergraduate program and I am Shashank welcoming you all in today's session. Friends, in today's session I am going to discuss the topic of Revolt of 1857 and this topic it is mentioned in class 12th NCERT history book and the name of the book is Themes in Indian History Part 3. So Themes in Indian History Part 3 and in this there is a topic which is known as Rebels and Raj and this is associated with Revolt of 1857. So my dear friends, in today's session I am going to discuss with you in details that is about the Revolt of 1857 which is adopted from the book that is Themes in Indian History Part 3 and the topic is Rebels and Raj that discusses about the Revolt of 1857. So let's begin the session for the day and this topic is very important for your upcoming CUET examination in history domain, plus it is also important for the general aptitude test because what we have seen in the previous year the question has come in the general aptitude test as well and obviously the question will be in the history domain also. So let's start the session. First of all dear friends, we will be going through the basic and first of all we will discuss what exactly is a revolt. So we will be discussing what exactly it is a revolt. So first of all my dear learners, revolt it is a political situation that it's a situation or simply you can say that it's a situation that leads to no political change. That means you will find that whenever there is a situation of revolt, the politics of that area or the political condition that does not change. So you will find that whenever there is a situation of revolt, the political condition of that area that does not change, and if it is a revolution guys, and if it is a revolution there is sudden political change, and if guys there is a revolution, if there is a revolution then it is sudden political change, and then you will find sudden political change. So whenever there is a situation of revolt, you will find that there is no political change, and whenever there is a situation of revolution, you will find sudden political change like American Revolution, French Revolution, Chinese Revolution, Russian Revolution. So there you will find sudden political change. So if there is sudden political change, then it is said to be revolution, and if there is no political change, then we can call it as a revolt. Now guys, when I talk about revolt of 1857, what does it mean? So simply it means guys when the revolt of 1857 when the revolt of 1857 got completed, you will find that there is no significant political change that happened in the India. So you will find that after the revolt of 1857, there is no significant political change happened. Political change happened. No significant political change happened. So earlier guys, the British East India Company was ruling on India. Now the power was transferred to British Crown. So earlier guys, what you will find, earlier British East India Company, British East India Company was ruling. Now after revolt of 1857, now the power was transferred to British Crown. So power transferred to British Crown. So power was transferred to British Crown. So British emperor. So British Empress became the ruler of India. So after revolt of 1857, the power was transferred to British Crown. So earlier guys, British East India Company was ruling. Now India will be ruled by British Crown, and Queen Victoria, she was declared Empress of India. And you will find that after this, Queen Victoria, she was declared Empress of India. So she was declared Empress of India. That was Queen Victoria. So my dear friends, you will find that after revolt of 1857, there was no significant political change. Earlier, British East India Company was ruling, which was also a British company. Now the power was transferred to British Crown, which is also British. So technically, there was no significant political change that we can say. Therefore, the situation, that event that happened in 1857 was a revolt, it was not a revolution. Therefore, my dear friends, the event happened in 1857 was a revolt. So, the event that happened in 1857 was a revolt, it was not a revolution. So event that happened in 1857, that was a revolt, it was not a revolution. So the event that happened in 1857, that was a revolt. I hope it is clear to all of you guys. I hope it is clear to all. So let's come to the next thing, guys, that is about the important pointers. And from important pointers, what I have seen constantly in CUET UG domain, history domain, plus in GAT, you will find the direct question that comes from these pointers. So let's start the important pointers regarding revolt of 1857. So first important point, my dear friends, who was the British Queen during the revolt of 1857? So British Queen during the revolt of 1857 was Queen Victoria, and she ruled from 1837 till 1901 AD, and she was declared Empress of India. And she was declared Empress of India. Now, we all know that Britain is a constitutional monarchy. So, we all know that Britain political system is a constitutional monarchy. British political system is a constitutional monarchy. So where the head of the country is not elected, so he is from a particular family, where the head of the government is elected. So the head of the government is always the prime minister. So who was the British prime minister during revolt of 1857? So the British prime minister during revolt of 1857, that was Lord Palmerston, and he was the British prime minister from 1855 till 1858. So he was the British PM during revolt of 1857. Now guys, who was the Governor General when the revolt of 1857 outbroke? So the Governor General during revolt of 1857 was Lord Canning, and he remained Governor General from 1856 to 1862. Now guys, first of all, we should understand who is a Governor General. So first of all, who is a Governor General? So Governor General, my dear friends, is a representative, is highest representative of British East India Company. So is the highest his highest officer of British East India Company. British East India Company. So highest officer of British East India Company in India, he was called Governor General. So at that point of time, Governor General was Lord Canning, and you will find that, my dear friends, Lord Canning was the last Governor General and first Viceroy. So he was the last Governor General and first Viceroy of India, of British India. So he was the last Governor General and first Viceroy of British India. Now, if I talk about this last Governor General and first Viceroy of British India. So now we hear the term Viceroy. So Viceroy, guys, it is made from two terms, that is Vice and Roy. So Vice means on behalf of, and Roy is a term that means the king. So Viceroy technically means ki one who rules on behalf of king is called Viceroy. So one who rules on behalf of king is a Viceroy. So the last Governor General and first Viceroy of India was Lord Canning. And you will find, my dear learners, कि Lord Canning from 1856 to 1858, he worked as Governor General. So he worked as Governor General, and from 1858 to 1862 he worked as Viceroy. So he is considered as the last Governor General and first Viceroy of British India. So last Governor General and first Viceroy of British India, that was Lord Canning. So I hope, my dear friends, is that clear to all of you? The last Governor General and first Viceroy, who was Lord Canning. So how he became last Governor General and first Viceroy. I hope these pointers are clear to all of you, and I would request everyone to kindly note down the things so that it will become very easy for you. So once you will start your revisionary process and once you will read NCERT after watching this session, so this will become just like a cakewalk for you people, because you will understand the basics of this, or basic and the theme of the chapter, and then if you will, once you will read NCERT, then it will become crystal clear for you all. Now my friends, let's discuss about other points. Ki there was a special military general who was called from Britain to suppress the revolt of 1857. So who was the British military general who was specially called, who specially came from Britain to suppress the revolt? That was General Colin Campbell. So General Colin Campbell, he was specially called from Britain to suppress the revolt of 1857. Now guys, at when revolt of 1857 outbroke, at that point of time Mughal dynasty, they were ruling in India just for the name, because Mughal dynasty was about to end and the last Mughal ruler was ruling the area. So who was the Mughal emperor during the revolt of 1857? So that was Bahadur Shah Zafar, and he ruled from 1837 till 1857. And this Bahadur Shah Zafar is also known as Bahadur Shah II. So he ruled from 1837 to 1857, and this Zafar, what it is? So it is the pen name. So it was the pen name of Bahadur Shah, because he used to write shairi, poem in Urdu and in Persian by pen name of Zafar. So he used to write. So Bahadur Shah used to write poems, shairi by pen name of Zafar. by pen name of Zafar. So Zafar was like a pen name, that is a pseudonym which was carried by the writers to write the things. Like if you will read about Harivansh Rai. So Harivansh Rai Bachchan, who is the father of who was the father of Amitabh Bachchan. So Bachchan, what it was his pen name. Like you will read about Mirza Ghalib. Mirza Ghalib. Ghalib was the pen name. His real name was Asadullah Khan. Other than this, you must have heard the name Firaq Gorakhpuri. Firaq Gorakhpuri real name was Raghupati Sahai. He used to write the poems by pen or poems by the pen name of Firaq Gorakhpuri. Next we have the best example, Premchand. Premchand was a very famous novelist and the Premchand was his pen name. Real name was Dhanpat Rai Srivastava. So that is called pen name, which is a pseudonym. And in history you will also find guys a ruler whose name was Sikandar Lodi, second ruler of Lodi dynasty. He used to write poems in Persian language by pen name of Gulrukhi. So Gulrukhi, that was his pen name. Now, what was the symbol of revolt of 1857? So, symbol of revolt of 1857 was lotus and chapati, which is called kamal and roti. Now, why lotus? Because lotus chastity, symbolizes chastity, and that was the objective of the revoltees. Revoltees is pure, and the objective is to make India free. And the objective was to make India free from British rule. And objective was to make India free from British rule. And chapati. Chapati, guys, it is also known as roti. And why chapati, guys? Because chapati is a food item which is eaten by maximum people. So you will find, my dear friends, that chapati is eaten by maximum people, whether they are rich and poor, whether rich or poor. And the that symbolizes the participation of every section, and this symbolizes the participation of every section of society. So that symbolizes the participation of every section of society. If we want to make this event successful, so every section of society, whether they are rich, whether they are poor, whether they are farmers, whether they are landlords, whether they are soldiers, whether they are the ruling class or the princely class, they all have to participate. So they all have to participate. I hope it is clear to all. So the symbol was lotus and chapati. I hope, my dear friends, I should be clear to all of you, and please note down the important things. This is very helpful while revising the topic for the examination purpose. Now guys, let's discuss about the reasons of revolt of 1857. Now, when I talk about the reasons of revolt of 1857, in your junior classes, you must have heard that why revolt of 1857 outbroke. So, the reason that was cited was the use of grease cartridges. The cap of the cartridge was made up of fat of cow and pig. So, for Hindus, cow is a pious animal, so they refuse to use, and for Muslims, pig is a prohibited animal, so Muslims refused, and due to this, revolt of 1857 outbroke. That is a reason, but it is not only the reason. That is a reason, of course it's a reason, and it was the immediate reason for outbreak of revolt of 1857. But it was not only the reason. The revolt of 1857 was collection of the atrocities, whether it's political, whether it's social, whether it is religious, whether it is military. So that is the collection of the atrocities and the reforms which was did by British East India Company in India. So revolt is not a thing that you can plan in 1 day, 2 day or within 1 month. It's a spark that ignited in the hearts of Indians when they found that the Britishers, they are exploiting them, and finally this converted into revolt of 1857. So finally this spark resulted in revolt of 1857. So my friends, this issue of grease cartridges was one of the reasons, but it was not only the reason. It was one of the reasons, but it was not only the reason. So, in this reasons of revolt of 1857, we will inquire the different reasons which was responsible for the revolt of 1857. So, we will inquire multiple reasons for this revolt, because revolt is not a thing which can be started just for one or two. So, there are multiple reasons which was running on the background, and that resulted in revolt of 1857. So, here I will be discussing with you reasons for revolt of 1857. First reason is, guys, political reason or political cause. Now in 1848 when Lord Dalhousie came, so in 1848, in 1848 Lord Dalhousie, and the time period of Lord Dalhousie is 1848 to 1856. So Lord Dalhousie in 1848 introduced a policy of doctrine of lapse. Doctrine of lapse. So he introduced a policy of doctrine of lapse. And according to the policy of the doctrine of lapse that was introduced by Lord Dalhousie in 1848, that any king whose empire, any area or any empire of the India or any state of the British India which is formed by British Charter. So those states of India, my dear, please understand these things. Those states of India which were formed by British Charter, if the ruler dies without natural successor, that means the male successor, the adopted child of that ruler will not be considered as the king, and the territory of his empire or the state of him will be merged in British Empire. So what does it says, guys? According to this policy, Indian states which were formed by British Charter, if the king dies without natural successor means own biological, male child, male child, because in the medieval India only the males were allowed to become the rulers. So only males were allowed to become rulers, were allowed to become ruler. So what was there? If the king dies without natural successor, that means own biological male child, his adopted child, that means king's adopted child. So king's adopted child will not be considered as the king, and his territory will be merged in British Empire. So this was the policy of doctrine of lapse, and it was a very wonderful policy of doctrine of lapse, that without fighting any war, without shedding a drop of blood, the Lord Dalhousie started annexing the empire. So it is being considered as one of the finest policies of Lord Dalhousie. Why? Because without any bloodshed, Lord Dalhousie started annexing the Indian states. So this was the wonderful policy of Lord Dalhousie, because without shedding a drop of blood, he started annexing a state just by a law. So you will find that it was a marvelous policy of doctrine of lapse according to the British. कि without involving themselves in war, without any expenditure, just by a law, you will find that he started expanding the British territories in India. So he started expanding British territory, British territory in India. So he started expanding British territory in India. Now guys, through this particular policy, what he did? So through this particular policy, my dear friends, British East India Company annexed which of the states? First it annexed Satara. Satara guys, it is in Maharashtra in 1848. So it is in Maharashtra. Then Jodhpur and Sambhalpur in 1849. Jodhpur guys, it is in Uttar Pradesh in Mahoba district. Sambhalpur, it is in Odisha. Sambhalpur, it is in Odisha. Baghat 1850. Baghat guys, it is in Himachal Pradesh. So right now it is in Himachal Pradesh. Then we have Udaipur. It is not Udaipur of Rajasthan, it is Udaipur. So Udaipur in 1852. So it is in Chhattisgarh. So it is in Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh in 1852, Jhansi in 1853, Jhansi it is in UP, and Nagpur in 1854. So it is again in Maharashtra. So these were the areas which were annexed by Lord Dalhousie through the policy of doctrine of lapse. So this were the area which was being annexed by British East India Company. Now guys, you will find that the greed of British East India Company started increasing day by day. And there was a territory that was called Awadh. There was a territory that was called Awadh, which is the area of UP as of now. So guys, there was a Nawab of Awadh. So in Awadh, there was a Nawab. There was a Nawab of Awadh whose name was Wajid Ali Shah. Wajid Ali Shah, and his wife was Begum Hazrat Mahal. And Begum Hazrat Mahal, she was also known as Mahak Pari. So she was also known as Mahak Pari, and they have their own biological child. They have their own biological child whose name was Birjis Kadir. Birjis Kadir. So their name was Birjis Kadir. Now guys, you will find that the doctrine of lapse will not be applicable on Awadh, but the Dalhousie used to say Awadh, that is a cherry on cake. So they used to refer Awadh as a cherry on cake. So anyhow, they wanted to annex Awadh. So anyhow, they wanted to annex Awadh at any cost. But doctrine of lapse policy is not applicable. So what British East India Company did, they started saying that the Awadh is maladministered. So they started saying that they started allegation on Nawab Wajid Ali Shah कि the people of Awadh, they are dissatisfied with the rule of Wajid Ali Shah. So they wanted that the British East India Company should take the charge, which was a complete fake allegation. So what they did, so they gave fake allegation. So they gave fake allegation that people of Awadh, people of Awadh, they are dissatisfied with rule of Nawab, with rule of Nawab, and they wanted that the British East India Company should take the charge of administration. That was completely a fake allegation that was imposed on Nawab of Awadh. So finally guys, what happened? Britishers, they forcefully imposed the ground of maladministration and arrested Nawab. So they forcefully put the ground of maladministration and arrested Nawab and sent him to Calcutta, and he was sent him means Nawab, to Calcutta. And the Nawab of Awadh at that point of time was Wajid Ali Shah. That was the most controversial decision taken by the British East India Company in 1856. So the most controversial decision that was taken by British East India Company in 1856 was annexation of Awadh on the ground of maladministration, which was a completely fake news. People, they were dissatisfied with the Nawab of Awadh. It was not like that. People were happy and they were satisfied also. But Awadh was considered as a cherry on cake. Therefore, Lord Dalhousie wished want to annex Awadh at any cost. Therefore, he did this activity. Now guys, other than this, you will find that there was one more reason, political cause, that was subsidiary alliance. So this was also subsidiary alliance that was did in 1798 AD by Lord Wellesley. So another reason of this revolt of 1857, that was the subsidiary alliance as well. So subsidiary alliance can also be quoted as a reason for the revolt of 1857, although the main reason was doctrine of lapse, but you can quote subsidiary alliance as one of the reasons of revolt of 1857 as well. I hope it is clear to all of you guys. Then do let me know, and then we will move to the next reason to discuss. Now guys, the next reason was industrial reason. So next reason was industrial reason. Now what happened guys? What was industrial reason? Okay, industrial revolution. Industrial revolution started in England. Started in England in 1760s. So in 1760s, that is in the 18th century, the industrial revolution started in England. Now you will find that guys, when industrial revolution started in England, you will find that goods were made up of machine. So goods were made up of machine. So machine made goods came in existence, whereas guys in India we have the handmade goods. We have the handmade goods. Now guys, you will find that due to the industrial revolution in Britain, you will find that the British goods were forcefully dumped in Indian market. So in order to find a place to sell the goods of the British products, they were forcefully dumped in Indian market, because India was like a market for them. So India was like a market for British. So whatever the British manufacturing was did during the industrial time of industrial revolution, the British goods, they were forcefully dumped in Indian markets. Now guys, if you will find the British goods are machine made. So British goods, they were machine made, and Indian goods were handmade. Indian goods were handmade. So what you will find, my dear learners, the machine made goods are cheaper. Machine made goods, they are cheaper, and handmade goods are costlier. Handmade goods are costlier. So the machine made goods were cheaper as compared to the handmade goods. Now guys, if you will find same type of goods, now tell me an answer. If you find two goods, two products, one is machine made and same type of product is handmade. Machine made product is costlier as compared to handmade product. So which product you will purchase? Which product you will purchase? The quality level is almost same. Which product you will purchase? Obviously your answer will be the machine made goods. So the people of India, what happened? Ki the people of India started using machine made goods, machine made goods because they were cheaper in price. So the local artisan, so the goods of local artisan and craftsmen remain unsold, remain unsold, and that created unemployment, unemployment situation. So that created unemployment situation for Indian artisans. That created unemployment situation for Indian artisan. So what Indian artisan will think? Indian artisan will think that due to this British policy or due to this British forcefully dumping of the British goods in India, they lost their livelihood. So due to the forceful dumping of the British goods, they lost their livelihood. So what you will find that this ignited a sense of dissatisfaction. This activity ignited a sense of dissatisfaction in the heart of Indians, Indian artisan and craftsmen, and that eventually led to the revolt of 1857. So that eventually led to the revolt of 1857. So this was the industrial reason for revolt of 1857. Next, we have socio-religious reason. Socio-religious reason or socio-religious clause. Now, you will find that guys, when during the time of medieval India, especially the Indian society was full of evils. So many social evils they were practiced in Indian society, both in Hindu-Muslim community, like polygamy, like child marriage, widow remarriage was highly prohibited. Other than this, women's they were not allowed to take the modern education, and this type of many social evils they were prevalent. Now when British East India Company came, they saw this condition, so they started reforming the society. They introduced different type of laws. Like they introduced the Anti-Sati law in 1829 with the effort of Lord William Bentinck. Then Widow Remarriage Act came during the time of Lord Canning. Lord Canning 1856, it was introduced during the time of Dalhousie but implemented during the time of Canning. Other than this, prohibition on the child marriage was did. So when this type of activity, when this type of reforms that was carried by the British government or British East India Company, this type of reforms they were not acceptable to the Orthodox Hindus and Muslims. So this type of reforms that used to create a new type of society, this type of reforms was unacceptable to Orthodox Hindus and Muslims because they consider this type of reform as undue interference in their social and religious matter. So the Orthodox Hindus and Muslims they became dissatisfied with the reforms of the British government, and finally this led to the revolt that ignited a spark in their heart and mind, and that led to the revolt of 1857. So my dear friends, you will find that during medieval period, many social evils, many social evils, many social evils were practiced practiced in Indian society. In Indian society, both in Hindus and Muslims. Both in Hindus and Muslims. Now you will find that ki the now like example can be child marriage, can be polygamy, that is keeping more than one wife, then sati system, prohibition on widow remarriage, widow remarriage. So this type of social levels they were very much practiced in the Indian society. And when British East India Company came, they introduced they introduced different laws for betterment of societies. So for the betterment of society. Now, which were those laws? Like abolition of sati system that happened in 1829 with the effort of Lord William Bentinck. Lord William Bentinck along with Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Then we have the Widow Remarriage Act. Widow Remarriage Act 1856 with the effort of 𝗕ihe Vidyasagar. With effort of 𝗕ihe Vidyasagar plus Lord Canning. So Widow Remarriage Act was passed, prohibition of child marriage was did, and when this type of social reforms that was being practiced through the law, you will find that guys it was taken as undue interference of British in the socio-religious matters of Indians. So Hindus and Muslims, Hindus and Muslims, they did not, they did not they did not ready to accept these reforms and taken them as undue interference in social and religious matters. So they became dissatisfied. So the Orthodox Hindus and Muslims they became dissatisfied with this activity, and finally my dear friends that led to the revolt of 1857. So finally this led to the revolt of 1857. So I hope guys is that clear to all of you? That was what were the socio-religious cause of the revolt of 1857. Now let's come to the next reason, that is military reasons. Now let's come to the military reasons. Now you will find that guys in the British East Indian Company Army, British East India Company's Army, there were two groups. One were the officers and another were the soldiers. Officers guys they were British and the soldiers they were Indians plus British. And Indian soldiers especially we have Hindus and Muslims. Indian soldiers especially have Hindus and Muslims. So now guys you will find that the Indian soldiers especially Hindus, the Indian soldiers especially the Hindus, and during this time period General Service Enlistment Act. So General Service Enlistment Act was passed, and it allowed it allowed British government, British East India Company to deploy the Indian soldiers wherever they needed. Okay, this will allow the British government, British East India Company, to deploy the Indian soldiers where they were needed. Now guys, you will find that due to this General Services Enlistment Act, the Indian soldiers, especially Hindus, they were forced to cross sea. They were forced to cross sea, and Hindu soldiers, they did not wanted to cross sea, because once you will cross sea, it is said that in the medieval time period, if a Hindu crosses sea, if a Hindu crosses sea, then will be outcast from the society. Then they will be outcast from society, and to come back again in the society they have to organize a very expensive religious event. So if they want to come back in the society, they have to organize a very expensive religious event. So there guys, they were not allowed. So they, Indian soldiers, especially Hindus, they refused to cross the sea. Other than this guys, the Hindus and Muslims, they were prohibited to use their religious symbols. So prohibition to use the religious symbols for it was applicable for both for Hindus and Muslims. They were not allowed to use their religious symbols. Other than this, my friends, you will find that the Indian soldiers, they were regularly tortured by British officers, saying them nigger. Nigger means black person. So the British officers used to taunt, used to humiliate, used to torture the Indian soldiers, and they used to call them nigger. Nigger means black person. Other than this guys, there was less opportunity of promotion and salary increment for Indian soldiers. For Indian soldiers as compared to Europeans, as compared to British soldiers. So there was less opportunity for promotion and salary increment for Indian soldiers as compared to the British soldiers. So what you will find that the Indian soldiers, they became dissatisfied, and once they became dissatisfied, that sparked a feeling of dissatisfaction in the heart of Indian soldiers, and finally this led to the revolt of 1857. So this finally led to the revolt of 1857, and this was the military reason for the revolt. So I hope my dear friends, is that clear to all what exactly was the military reason. Next I am going to discuss the immediate cause that you must have seen. Immediate cause was guys the use of grease cartridges. Now you will find that earlier the British Army, the British East India Company, British East India Company Army used brown base rifle. rifle, and you will find that ki the weapon was upgraded. Weapon was upgraded and a new weapon came, that was Enfield rifle. And new weapon came. New weapon, that means it was a rifle that came was Enfield rifle. That was a Enfield rifle. Now guys, this Enfield rifle has a long range and less recoiling. So Enfield rifle has a long range and less recoiling. So long range and less recoiling. So you will find that they were better in the use. Now what has to be done to fire the Enfield rifle? So first of all, if a soldier wishes to fire the Enfield rifle, first of all he has to cut the cap of the cartridge. Cap of the cartridge means cap of the bullet by mouth, and then they have to load the gun. So you will find that guys ki the cap of the cartridge has to be cut from the mouth, and that was made up of fat of cow and pig. So this rumor spread in the cantonment area. So this rumor spread in the whole cantonment area. Now you will find that guys ki cow is pious for Hindus and pig is prohibited for Muslims. So both Hindus and Muslims, Hindus and Muslims refused to use the weapon, to use the gun. So both Hindus and Muslims, they refused to use the gun, and this is how guys the revolt of 1857 started. So this is how the revolt of 1857 started. So that was the main reason for the immediate cause, or the main cause for the revolt of 1857. So am I clear to all of you ki what was the immediate cause for the revolt of 1857? Now let's discuss the next thing, that is ki how this revolt started. On 29th March 1857, my dear friends, soldier of 34 Bengal native infantry, that was Mangal Pandey, and he killed British officer Lieutenant Bob and Sergeant Hurrison in Barakpur. Barakpur guys, it is in West Bengal. So Mangal Pandey killed Lieutenant Bob and Sergeant Hurrison on 29th March 1857, and he started the revolt. Now on 8th April 1857, Mangal Pandey was hanged. So Mangal Pandey was hanged in Barakpur. So after the death of Mangal Pandey, this revolt sparked very heavily. Now guys, on 10th May 1857, it is said that the soldiers of Meerut Cant, they revolted, and that was the 3rd Cavalry Regiment which revolted the most. And what they did, so it is said that guys when the soldiers of the Meerut Cantonment revolted, that they will not use the Enfield rifle. So around 85 soldiers, they were arrested and they were imprisoned for almost 10 years. So you will find that almost 85 soldiers of the Meerut cantonment, they were arrested and they were given the punishment of 10 years if they do not follow the order to use the rifle. So the soldiers of Meerut cantonment also revolted against this activity. Now on 11th May 1857, you will find that the soldiers reached Red Fort, Delhi. And at that point of time, my dear friends, Bahadur Shah Zafar was the ruler of Delhi, and he was just a ruler just for the name. And at that point of time, he was 83 years old. So he has grown too old. And at that point of time, when he heard that some of the soldiers, they revolted against the British and they came from Meerut and they killed the many British officers and their family members in the Daryaganj area of Delhi. And from Daryaganj, it is not very far, that is Red Fort. So he thought that ki might these soldiers will also come and harm their family, harm his family. So he said that ki please close the door of Red Fort. Now guys, the door was closed and it is said that ki during evening the revoltees reached the fort, Red Fort. Now you will find that ki wife of Bahadur Shah Zafar, of Bahadur Shah II, who was Begum Zeenat Mahal, with the help of her cook, opened the door. She opened the door, and revoltees came inside. Revoltees came inside and they said that ki we want to revolt against British government under your political leadership. And they said that ki these revoltees, they want to revolt against British government under the political leadership of Bahadur Shah Zafar. So he was also declared as the political head of revolt of 1857, and he was declared Shahanshah-e-Hind. So he was declared Shahanshah-e-Hind, that is Emperor of India. So he was declared Emperor of India, and you already know, my friends, that the revolt of 1857 failed. So revolt of 1857 when failed, so on 8th July 1858, after 14 months after the outbreak at Meerut, peace was finally proclaimed by Lord Canning, and Lord Canning officially declared the end of revolt. And he officially declared the end of. So after 14 months after the outbreak of the revolt in Meerut, because in Meerut guys you will find that in May 1857 that was being did. So almost for a period of 2 months, it is not exactly 2 months, so it is almost 14 months. So it is almost 14 months after the outbreak at Meerut, peace was proclaimed by Lord Canning, and Lord Canning officially said that now the British government has ended the revolt of 1857. So British government has ended the revolt. I hope guys, is that clear to all? So this is how the revolt started and how it ended. Now guys, let's discuss some of the important centers of the revolt and the political leaders who led this revolt. So important political leaders. First is Barakpur. Barakpur guys, it is in West Bengal and it was led by Mangal Pandey. Mangal Pandey did this thing. Next in Delhi guys, it was Bakht Bahadur Shah Zafar and Bakht Khan. Bakht Khan guys, he was his general. Military general of Bahadur Shah. Next we have Kanpur. Kanpur guys, it was held by Tatya Tope and Nana Sahib. Nana Sahib, he was last Peshwa. Nana Sahib, he was last Peshwa, and his real name was Dhondu Pant. Dhondu Pant. Next we have Lucknow. Lucknow guys, it was led by Begum Hazrat Mahal, and Begum Hazrat Mahal, she was wife of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. So she was wife of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. Next we have Jhansi. Jhansi guys, it was led by Rani Lakshmi Bai, and she was widow of Maharaj Gangadhar Rao. So widow of Maharaj of Jhansi Gangadhar Rao. Next we have Bareilly. Bareilly guys, it is in UP, that was led by Khan Bahadur Khan. So Khan Bahadur Khan, he led the revolt from Bareilly. Next we have Patna. Patna, it was Maulvi Pir Ali. Next we have Jagdishpur. Jagdishpur, it was Kunwar Singh, who was a very powerful zamindar. And Jagdishpur guys, it is located in Ara district of Bihar. So it is located in Ara district of Bihar, Jagdishpur. And he was a very powerful zamindar. Next we have Allahabad and Banaras, that was being led by Liaquat Ali. Next we have Faizabad, that was led by Maulvi Ahmadullah. Next we have Bagpat. Bagpat, it is near Delhi, that was led by Shahmal. And Gwalior, it was led by Tatya Tope. And Tatya Tope, he was military commander of Nana Sahib, and he was arrested by one of his friend whose name was Man Singh. So Man Singh gave the tip to British forces, and finally British forces arrested Tatya Tope and he was being hanged. Other than this, you will find that guys, Nana Sahib, he fled to when the revolt of 1857 failed. He fled to Nepal and then there was no trace of him. And same thing that was did by Begum Hazrat Mahal. So she also fled to Nepal when the revolt of 1857 failed. So these are the important leaders plus centers of the revolt. What type of question that comes in your exam? That is the question related to the match the following. Now I hope it is clear to all of you. Now let's discuss about the failure of revolt. So we all know that the revolt of 1857 failed. Now, why this revolt of 1857 failed? What were the reasons for the failure of revolt of 1857? So, we will inquire those reasons as well. First of all, guys, the revolt was not all India in nature. It was mainly in North India. South India was left apart. There was no traces of revolt in South India. So you will find, my dear learners, that since there was no trace of revolt in South India, so the revolt was not all India in nature, and you will find that once the army of British, they were also in South, so once they need the army, they used to call the army from the South India. Next was that only those Nawab and king supported the British East Indies, supported the revolt whose pension was stopped. Now guys, when the British government, British East India Company took the powers of Nawab and the kings, they were given pensions. And later guys, the pension was also stopped. So only those Nawab and king, they supported the revolt whose pension was stopped, so that if the British government gets in the fear, they should restart the pension. Next was that there was no proper coordination and planning between the revoltees. So there was lack of planning and coordination. Next we have use of old weapons. They were fighting with the old style cannon, then bows, arrows, then old firearms, then swords. And the British government, they have the modern weapons, modern firearm, plus they have the telegraph also, so that they can send the message to other Britishers once there is need of the forces. Other than this guys, the next important thing is that the educated middle class did not supported the revolt. Now, why educated middle class did not supported the revolt? According to the middle class population, educated middle class, the British government, they are reforming the Indian society. So according to the educated middle class, the reforms of British East India Company is in long term favor long-term favor for Indians, and it will help the Indians to overcome, and it will upgrade Indians, and it will upgrade the Indians. And if we throw the British outside the Indian territory, so again the India will go in the ages. So again the India will be a place where there is full of social levels, when there is no education, no commercial education, no scientific education. So again India will go in the back. So the educated middle class, they supported British because according to them the reforms which was introduced by British, they were very good for the Indian society in long term. So therefore they supported the British government, not the revoltees. So I hope, my dear friends, is that clear to all why revolt failed. Now guys, let's come to the Government of India Act, that is also known as the Act of Good Governance. So this Act of Good Governance, and it was read by Lord Canning. So it was called Act of Good Governance, and you will find that the proclamation was read by Lord Canning. Proclamation was read by Lord Canning in 1858. In 1858 in Allahabad. Therefore, Allahabad was declared capital of India for one day. So, Allahabad was declared capital of India for one day. So, that is called Act of Good Governance, or which is called Government of India Act 1858. And this was read by Lord Canning, and that was the proclamation of Queen Victoria. So, this was the proclamation of Queen Victoria. So this was the proclamation of Queen Victoria. And according to this proclamation, the rule of British East India Company will end, and the power will be transferred to British Crown. And you will find that Queen Victoria, she became the Empress of India. Next is Governor General now will be known as Viceroy. So Governor General will be now known as Viceroy. So Lord Canning became the last Governor General and first Viceroy of India. Next was the creation of the post of Secretary of India. Secretary of India, and the sitting of Secretary of India will be in London. And this will act as a bridge between the Viceroy and the British Crown. And the first Secretary of India was Lord Stanley. So first Secretary of India was Lord Stanley. Lord Stanley. Next was the policy of doctrine of lapse was withdrawn. Policy of doctrine of lapse was withdrawn in 1858, and now you will find that the adopted child, they will be treated as the next successor. So adopted child will be treated as next successor. And you will find that the restructure of British Army. So restructuring of British Army was did. The number of Hindus and Muslim soldiers were reduced. You will find that the number of Hindus and Muslim soldiers were reduced, and there was introduction of martial communities in army. So introduction of martial community like Sikh, Jat, Pathans. So they were introduced in the British army. So the number of Hindus and Muslim soldiers, they were reduced because they were the person who created this so much of chaos. They were the person who created this so much of chaos. So you will find that the number of Hindus and Muslim soldiers in the British army was reduced, and the number of martial communities, they were increased like Sikh, Jat, Pathans. So they are the martial community, their number was increased. So this was about the Government of India Act 1858, that was called Act of Good Governance or Allahabad Declaration. So this is also known as Allahabad Declaration. Allahabad Declaration. Now guys, let's discuss one more important point that came in CUET UG 2023, and that is Azamgarh Declaration. Azamgarh, it is the name of a place in UP, and this question same to same came in CUET UG 2023, and they asked in the examination that Azamgarh Declaration is related to which event. So Azamgarh Declaration was related to Revolt of 1857. So now guys, what was Azamgarh Declaration? So Azamgarh guys, it is name of a place in UP. This declaration was issued on 25th August 1857 to promote the unity between Hindus and Muslims. So it was a declaration to promote the unity between Hindus and Muslims, and while the real name of this writer, author is not known, but according to the sources, they said that it was written by Firoz Shah, who was the grandson of Bahadur Shah Zafar. But according to the sources, but it is not 100% confirmed, but according to the sources, my dear friends, this is written by Firoz Shah, who was the grandson of Bahadur Shah Zafar. So, is that clear to all guys about Azamgarh Declaration? This same question came in CUET UG domain, that who was the person that this Azamgarh Declaration is associated with which incident. So, it was associated with Revolt of 1857. So my dear students, in this session we discussed about the revolt of 1857 in details, and we discussed about the various reasons of revolt of 1857 plus important pointers of the revolt of 1857, and then about Azamgarh Declaration as well. So with this guys, I conclude the session of Revolt of 1857, and I hope that you must have understood the content of this chapter well. And now guys, if you will read NCERT, that is Themes in Indian History Part 3, and the chapter name is The Rebels and Raj, then it will be very easy for you to understand the whole chapter simply, and that will now take the less time to read the things and to assimilate the important pointers and facts plus conceptual understandings. So this is going to be highly helpful for your upcoming GAT exam, board exam plus CUET exam as well. So my dear friends, thank you for being the patient listeners, and let's meet in the next session to discuss another important topic related to the board CUET examination. So thank you for watching. Let's meet in the next session.